we're finally ready to graph our data. All of our legwork is going to pay off because our data is now clean and summarized in a format that is easily translatable to either a graph or a chart. So what we're going to do is click on a blank area of our spreadsheet and then come up to the Insert section of the ribbon. As we've learned in previous lessons, we need to select the correct graph for the data type that we're looking at. And since this is time series data, or data that is related to a particular set of time and has two components to it, male and female, I'm going to go with either a column or a line graph. Let's start with the column and then work our way forward from there. So what I'm going to do is click on this down arrow key, select the 2D column graph. So from there we can actually format this in any way we want, but just the plain old 2D column graph is going to work well. So what that's going to do is bring up a blank canvas for us to work from. We know that this is a 2D column graph because that's what we selected, but right now it has no data in it. So we need to bring some data in it, but first let's set up our canvas to look a little bit better than what it does. So what we're going to do is right click and click on Format, Chart Area. From here we're going to select the fill. For me, solid fills work well, but with neutral colors. So I tend to stick with this gray section here on the left. I'm going to go with the second one down here. So it's a little bit darker than white, but it just gives us a nice background to work with. From there, we're going to go to border color, and I prefer no border. I think it gives a little bit more cleanliness to the graph. Border styles, we're not going to worry about that. Shadow, we're going to do anything with, and 3D format, we're not going to do anything with. So we can just click close from here. So what this has done is given us a blank gray canvas to work from. But now we need to add a little bit of data. So what we're going to do is right click again and do select data. From here we can click on the add button and choose the series name that we're looking for. So in this particular case we're going to start with female because that's the first data set we have. So let's click on cell C2 to bring in the heading. This is going to bring in the female heading for our data set. And then we can click on the series values to select the series values by clicking on the selection arrow here, and we can highlight all of these selections in the female column in column C. From here we're going to click OK. So we need to make sure that our axis is bringing in the correct time frame. We're going to click on the horizontal category axis labels and bring in the month range. So you can just do that by dragging down here in column B, and that'll bring all of the months, and as you can see our graph is starting to populate, and then we can click OK. That brings us back to the data source wizard, and then let's click OK again to move forward. So this is all well and good, and we've brought our female data in, but to me this doesn't really look so good. So let's spruce it up a little bit. The first thing I'm going to do is delete a few of these labels. We can come back and add them in later on. So here what we have is a graph that includes all of our female data by month and then the count of violations issued for that particular gender. But as you can see there's some white space here and some different coloring and that sort of thing. So let's actually format and change this white space here. So what we're going to do is right click and click on Format Plot Area, and then we're going to change our fill to a solid fill, and if you recall we selected this number 2 here on the gray left hand side. Let's do that and click OK. We're not going to worry about the border colors or anything else as we did before. So what that does is make sure that we have consistent formatting across our particular data sets. Now let's make sure these labels look a little bit better. So what we can do is just use our text editor up at the top here in the ribbon, and let's change the color of these. Let's make them this dark gray over here. That just makes it look a little bit different and adds a little bit more of some consistency to the graph. You can see we're already starting to get a little bit better here. The next thing we want to do is clean up our axis a little bit. I'm not really fond of this gray here. So let's get rid of it. Let's go to Format Axis by right clicking and then go to the line color section. What we're going to do is get rid of the line. This is going to make it a little bit cleaner and give us a little bit more contrast. As you can see, we're getting there already. That just makes it a little bit cleaner. So while we're on this axis, So we've cleaned up this axis. Before we move any further, let's add the mail data. So I'm going to right click and do the same thing, select data. I'm going to go to add, and then I'm going to add the series name of mail in cell D2, and then I'm going to select the data set in column D. What this is going to do is bring in the mail data, and as you can see, probably as expected, the males are issued a little bit more traffic violations for each month than the females are. I'm going to click OK to select this data, and then one more thing we need to do is make sure that we're consistent with our horizontal axis labels. So I'm going to click Edit and bring in the month again, and then I can click OK. So now that we've got our data and our axis is a little bit cleaner, let's format these grid lines a bit. So what I'm going to do is right click and click on Format Grid Lines. On the line color, I'm going to go to Solid Line, and I'm going to choose a line that is a little bit darker than our background, but not too much darker. What this is going to do is just give us a nice little contrast between the actual background and the data, and it's still going to make the data pop, but it's just going to bring it out a little bit more. So now that the background for our graph is formatted the way we want it, we can move on to formatting the actual data points and make those a little bit more presentable. So we're going to right click on our female data points and go to Format Data Series. This is going to give all of our options here to choose how we want to set this up. I'm going to go to Fill, and I'm going to choose Solid Fill. In this case, I'm going to select a light blue for the females just to make it a little bit less obtrusive. And I'm going to click Close. And then I'm going to format the data series for the males by right clicking and then go to the Format Data Series and going to the Fill. And what we'll do here is we'll click Solid Fill, and then we'll go to one of these little greens over here, sort of a light green. What this is going to do is add just a little bit better visualization to the data. So as you can see, instead of using the default options in Excel for the graphing, what we've done here is add a little bit more color and a little bit more formatting to make things stand out.